So hello guys and welcome to my full review of the Ford Focus 2019 1.5 diesel Zetec trim with 120 bhp. First of all guys, when I was driving the car I had a question for you, and I'm gonna ask you now. I want to know what is the reason you want to buy this car. That was the reason, question that was baffling me, because there's so many cars on the market in the same category, and I was wondering, is it because you had a Ford before, or because of the pricing, or anything in particular? So let me know in the comments below. So as promised, this is the full review, and you can see my other video with first impressions as well linked below. As you can see, I did a little demo here of the lines on the side of the new Focus, as I was honestly mesmerized by the way they all somehow make the car look beautiful. It's a really good job, Ford. The car looks really cool and modern. Long time ago, when Ford introduced the first Focus in 1996, it was so revolutionary that they had to change the name from Escort. This time it's more toned down, but it's still very charismatic, very characteristic, and it looks a bit sportier in the ST line trim, but with bigger wheels and with different bumper design. But here in Zetec it's still a very good looking car. So let's get to the other parts of the design outside. As you can see, all the nice lines here around the car. Up front you've got that upgraded grille face. In the rear the lights are maybe not very different from other cars in this category. You've got this nice Focus text font, similar to what you get in like Volvo cars recently. And up front you've got the nice grille design that Ford introduced recently, with a bit similarities to the Aston Martin, but it still looks really cool in my opinion. As you can see, the bumper here in the Zetec trim is a bit less sportier than in ST line, but some people will prefer that more toned down car, inconspicuous on the road. So let's get inside. From the rear, for a change, you can fit the adults there. It's really nice and compact. Well, I'm gonna get to that in the practicality section as well. Inside, Ford really upped their game, and it's really getting close to the arch rival Volkswagen in terms of quality, in terms of feel, in terms of polish, and design in general. For me, as usual, the most important parts in quality terms are where it matters, meaning where you touch the most. So the gear lever, the steering wheel, the armrest, the doors, it's all very high quality in Focus, in the new Focus. But I'm not as picky as some journalists that they try to scratch the plastics where you can even barely see them, like on the lower part of the glove box or somewhere in the footwell. You won't never touch those parts in real life, maybe very rarely, so I don't really care about that. But when it matters, it's really up there quality wise with other brands, and getting very close to Volkswagen. The touchscreen is well positioned, but I'm not the biggest fan of the way it looks. It's better here than in Fiesta maybe, but it's still a bit weird sticking out from the dashboard, and I just think that Ford could do a much better job with design of that touchscreen. At least it's easily to reach to it with your hands when you're driving. So how does it drive, guys? As I said before, I was having the first impressions. In my other video you can see the first impressions, and I wanted to drive the car more and give you some, you know, opinion about the way it drives based on my experience as well. I had the Peugeot 308 recently tested, the Nissan Qashqai. You know, I drive a BMW, 10-year-old BMW, so in comparison to those cars, you know, when I drove this car more, this is slightly worse feedback, worse feel of driving as Peugeot 308. Peugeot 308 is more, you know, a hood to drive, more of a driver's car. You know, you can chuck it about, and it's really fun to drive. This car is more, is softer, is more composed. Let's say it's very good on the motorway. At even around 140 kilometers per hour, it's really quiet, really refined, really stable. You know, over 150 it's getting a bit more unstable, let's say. But also everything works well. It's like a complete package. That this was the plan, I think, for Ford to do it like that. The gears engage perfectly, the clutch works perfectly, the steering wheel is quite, you know, easy to move, and it's a bit, you know, doesn't have that much feedback as I would expect. Changing the car into the other modes as well doesn't make much difference. In the S mode, which is like ST almost, I don't see any much difference. Maybe the steering wheel is a bit heavier, but that's all there is. And honestly, I don't know if there's a difference between this and the ST version, ST line at least. You know, is the suspension lower? Is the suspension harder? Probably. We need to check, because this is the Zetec version of this car, 120 bhp. The engine is quite nippy. You know, you can do some things. Let's say you can drive faster, you can accelerate. It's not a slouch. And you know, on the motorway especially, it's quite refined. I really enjoy driving it on the motorway. In the town as well, everything works well. Everything is nice to use. Like I said, the gearbox, the steering wheel, everything is the way it should be in a car like that. So all in all, honestly, it's not as driver focused, like I said, as the Peugeot. And sorry if, you know, you're not gonna like my opinion about it, but that's just the way it is. I tried to drive it harder in the corners, in the you know, mountain region of Portugal, and it was just understeering, and it didn't want to, you know, it was changing direction really nice, but you could feel at one point it was just, you know, it was just too much for it. The wheels, obviously, the tires are probably, the profile is too big for it, and all in all, it wasn't, you know, very convincing and not very inspiring, you know, not very inspiring, you know, confidence driving. The tires are Michelin's Primacy, so they're, you know, like eco tires mostly, but I think the profile as well and the other things a bit, you know, let it down. So all in all, I was expecting more, to be honest. Maybe it's because, like I said, it's not the ST line. Maybe the ST line is lower and harder, but this Zetec version is quite soft and good for city driving, but nothing spirit. So let's get to the practicality now. As I mentioned in the beginning, the car is, you know, very practical for its, you know, in its class. You know, there's no shortage here of space, maybe no extras, nothing special, but at least it's doing everything right. So in the rear, you've got space for everything, roughly 2 big, you know, luggage cases, which is pretty decent for this class, for the hatchback car, which obviously the boot is a bit shorter than in the saloon. The rear has space for 2 adults easily. I could fit there with my front seat, with my driving seat, you know, in my driving position, I could get into the rear easily, and I wouldn't mind driving or sitting there for quite a while. The door bins are quite spacious. You can put like a 1.5 liter bottle there. The cab is for, you know, next to steering wheel as well. It's quite spacious for some extra bits. And the compartment between the seats also to, you know, to charge the phone, to put everything. The glove box is really big, unlike in some other cars like I tested. Peugeot 308 was very small compared to that. The cup holders have a neat feature where you can adjust them front and back to, you know, accommodate if you have a bigger cup or smaller. In the rear, the only thing that is worth mentioning, you know, that's the power socket. I think it should have already some USB sockets. Everything seems to be well organized. There is no clutter on the dashboard, on the steering wheel. All the buttons are clean and easy to figure out. You know, even when I was driving the first time, I didn't have to look too much to try to read, you know, which one is responsible for what function. So everything seems to be well done, and Ford is doing that for many years now, and obviously they know what they're doing. So it's a clean and nice design, no problems here. Everything exactly where you would expect it to be. The dash is really cool, white backlight, and it looks a bit like a LCD screen, but actually just the middle part is the screen. So time for the MCK Rides total score. The score is obviously for this exact car trim with this exact engine, as there can be huge differences between the same cars. As for example, Ford has different suspension setup for Zetec and ST line trims, which affect handling tremendously. So the design score 6 out of 10. It's got great lines on the sides. The rear lights let it down a bit because they're really similar to other cars in the category. So for me it's 6 out of 10. The drive, I would say 4 out of 10, but again, this is because of the setup in the Zetec trim. If you want something sportier, go for the ST line. That will be the suspension will be stiffer, the wheels will be bigger, and you get that rear suspension with the upgrade, you know, to be more sporty. And for the practicality, it's 7 out of 10. It has the space and all the toys you would expect in that class. There is nothing letting it down, but it doesn't have anything, you know, anything special either in the car. Maybe that adjustable cup holders or something, but it's, you know, nothing really extra. So the total score would be 17 out of 30. And to summarize the car in one sentence, I would say that it's a car for somebody buying a cheap family city car that of its time in the city and lives life under the radar. If you want to be inconspicuous, that's probably the car for you. So thank you guys for watching. Hope you enjoyed it. Let me know what you didn't like, what you liked, and comment below with that. And don't forget to subscribe and like the video, and see you in the next one. Look us out.